There's like one card I can never beat, which is Chalice of the Void on 1, which is what Chris Kapica is playing with.
Yeah, this matchup seems pretty nightmarish for Greg, although, of course, I haven't really watched Greg's deck much in action. But fast mana acceleration into enormous threats, the creatures that Chris is playing all much, much bigger. I think Greg might be in some trouble here.
We've got a Darksteel Citadel into a Voltaic Key, excuse me, passing the turn. Now, Greg, unfortunately for him, he showed up a touch late to the tournament today, so his loss is because he got here after round 1 and the 10 minutes went by. So, in theory, Patrick, he is undefeated with Mono Blue Martyr.
That's one way of terming it,
Yes, he is undefeated. You take that one out of that loss column, as here is Niv Magus Elemental Hatch, happy to pass it back.
And this is where a lot of the power in the deck comes from, because this thing is capable of getting lethal, especially against decks that don't have things like Swords to Plowshares. That's a troubling card for Greg to move all in against, but Chris isn't really going to present any sort of disruption.
Patrick, Chris plays a Petrified Field. Name that card. What's it do?
I believe you can sacrifice it to return a land from your graveyard to your hand.
Set?
It is from Odyssey, I think.
I think you are correct. Niv Magus Elemental coming in.
Still got it.
You still got it. Well done. Niv Magus Elemental coming into the red zone. Curse Catcher played pre-combat. In we go for 1. Greg with not a second land. The reason for that is because he's playing 13.
Yeah, 11 Island, 2 Wasteland, the mana base.
Here's a City of Traders. This is a Lodestone Golem. I would probably counter that, but we'll see if Hatch would like to counter that. And Hatch with a bit of a smile on his face, having an idea of what he's up against now.
Yeah.
He does have a Force Will in his hand. He has another blue card. The question is, does he want to counter this, or does he want to get a little bit fancy with old Niv Magus Elemental?
Well, that is an angle that Greg has access to, is just trying to go over the top of Chris with a large Niv Magus Elemental, but that's very hard to do in the face of Lodestone Golem, which is going to make Greg's spells much more prohibitive to cast.
Yeah. Lodestone Golem Vintage All-Star. Makes me mad that this card doesn't see any other play outside of Vintage, but I guess when no other format has Mirror's Workshop, makes it difficult.
Yeah, the Moxes also help a lot with this card.
I suppose that's true. I suppose that is true. I'm saying let's get Workshop in the Legacy and see what happens. Like, for just 1 week.
I think
not a good idea?
It would be cute for one tournament, maybe.
Wasteland is legal. You can kill the Workshop.
Yeah, but you only need to tap the Workshop once.
But then it's gotten, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Force of Will, poor Ninja of the Deep Hours has been removed. Maybe that just means Greg has another one. Hatch is going to untap. Looks like he's, oh my goodness, give it to me.
So Sky Hussar, there's 4 copies in this deck. It's actually uncastable, but it is here just as another way to draw cards, and works very well with Greg's plethora of cheap creatures.
Dissension All-Star.
Yes.
Fantastic uncommon in that format. Hatch is going to forecast it, a word that we will probably never use again during our Legacy coverage, the forecast mechanic. But here it is from Sky Hussar. Greg draws a card, plays a Judge's Familiar, does not find a land, passes the turn back. Chris is going to take a draw. He drew a Blightsteel Colossus. We're not quite there yet.
We're a little far away. That's, of course, a Kadoltha Forge master target.
Accurate. Well, he won't be able to search for it this go around. Let's see if he's got anything to do, though. He may have been relying on that Lodestone Golem to really get some work done here against Greg's mishmash of creatures.
Yeah, it looks like he's looking at a hand of Cavern of Souls, Phyrexian, Metamorph. Just not a lot of proactive action right now. And of course, playing a land is a little annoying for him as well, because he has City of Traders in play.
Patrick, surprise, surprise, some Twitter people would like a deck tech on this brew here. They haven't even seen everything Greg has to offer.
Oh, no, not yet.
We held out on the Sky Hussars. What else are we hiding in this cage?
A copy of Scab Ruinator.
You better believe it. That's no mistype. You don't write that down on accident.
No. I mean, we were in the car ride back with him yesterday, and he was cooking up all sorts of nonsense.
He sure was, as he always does. Chris is going to tap 2 lands, but tap for 3 mana. Well, he's going to think better of it. And again, he has Blightsteel Colossus, he has a Cavern of Souls. Looks like he may have a Wormcoil Engine in his hand.
Yep.
And then a Phyrexian Metamorph.
But the Voltaic Key is not really providing him with anything right now, as his only artifact is the Citadel. So you can Metamorph the Citadel to make a land drop, but again, the City of Traders is prohibitive in all of this.
It's time to forecast yet again. The weather is beautiful outside for Sky Hussar. It'll draw Hatch a card, and he'll draw another one. Getting deeper into his deck, still looking for that second land. Drew another Sky Hussar. Going off.
As it were.
Yeah. See what the follow-up's going to be here.
I believe we're seeing Martyr of Frost.
You better believe we are. Oh, you're going to read that one, Chris?
Greg is going to be setting a record this tournament for most cards read by opponent per game.
Yeah, perhaps
this is going to be
judge calls.
Yeah, this is going to be a new record.
In for 1 comes Niv Magus, and Greg did draw another copy of Sky Hussar, so now he could draw 2 cards. Believe it or not, this is getting unfair.
So Chris with a great draw this turn in Metalworker,
Yes.
as mana was really his bottleneck.
And here is a Metalworker. So the powerful artifact from Urza's Destiny.
Correct.
Yes! It's before my time. Comes into play, willing to provide a ton of mana, as we know Chris has a bunch of artifacts in his hand. Greg on his upkeep. Are we going to forecast a little more?
I mean, he has 4 creatures and a second Skyosar, so he could.
All right, it's time to forecast this guy who's like, give me another card, Hatch says. I believe that may have been a wasteland. He's Hatch, I'm doing my thing here, man. I'm forecasting away. He's explaining to the table judge right now. I'm having the time of my life. I can't use the same one.
Correct. You can only reveal once.
So what are the forecast cards? Do you remember any more of them? I know at least one.
Proclamation of Rebirth, I recall.
Okay.
And that's the end of the list.
I think it's Paradise of Plumes. That might not be the correct name. You can forecast to tap something under upkeep for what you can show it and tap something for, you pay white and a blue and then tap it. And he's gonna show another Sky Hussar. Look at Hatch go. Another card coming. So now Sky Hussars are gonna go back to the grip. All right, now he's gonna draw for his turn. That's an Ancestral Recall.
It sort of looks like Greg is spinning his wheels here, but all he's trying to do is make enough land drops and get enough spells where he can kill Chris in 1 or 2 shots with Niv Magus Elemental.
Yeah. That's realistically all he's trying to do right now. Also, now that he has 2 lands, you can assume that he has, we know he has at least 2 blue cards. We don't know how many more he has in his hand, even though you can see a decent amount of them. So now Martyr of Frost is actually being turned on into something realistic, which is sweet, because Martyr of Frost, it counters any spell.
Correct.
It's not just like an instant or sorcery, which you would probably think about. As now Hatch is going to go snap back in to reality. Oops, there goes gravity.
This is a Time Spiral block draft all-star.
Hold. It did make top 8 of a Pro Tour.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, a free on summon's pretty powerful.
In Sam Black's Poison deck at Pro Tour Philadelphia. Had one of those to muddle the mixture for. So Hatch does make Chris pick up his Metalworker there. Basically a time walk, because now he leaves the 2 mana open too. Snapback being free, so now Martyr of Frost can be on counterspell duty.
Yeah, and all these exchanges look bad from a card economy standpoint, but Greg's just drawing so many cards that he can afford to do stuff like this.
Here's a Lodestone Golem. Will we counter this with Martyr of Frost? Could have fired off Wasteland. Don't think he needs to right now.
Well, he's trying to hold up 2 mana for Martyr of Frost.
Yeah.
So the second land's really valuable for Greg.
And one thing here, too, is like this proved to be a problematic card previously for Greg. He countered the first one with Force of Will, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him counter this one, too. But he is certainly giving this a lot of thought before he does counter it.
Yeah, there's a possibility he doesn't even really care about this and would rather keep his 4th creature in play to activate Sky Hussar twice next turn.
Yeah, there's a chance of that. I mean, the issue here, I think, is when Greg is playing a 13-land deck, he's pretty bottlenecked on what he can and cannot do, and this making it even more expensive.
Yeah. And he's potentially looking to chain together multiple spells as well, but it looks like he's going to let it through.
All right, he lets it in. Hatch is going to untap. He's going to go a drawing. There's your Sky Hussar. You have any idea how badly I'd want this deck to be a thing?
This is a riot.
Yeah.
What's happening right now is a riot.
Sky Hussar again. Niv Magus Elemental drawn. Now it's time to draw another card. All right, so Hatch just found a couple of lands here.
And if you're in Chris's seat right now, you have this dual feeling of he's not doing anything, and I'm sure he's about to kill me.
Yeah. Not the best feeling in the world to have.
And Greg's picked up a Flusterstorm, so that's another piece of all of this.
Oh, let the fun begin. Flusterstorm plus Niv Magus Elemental. It can be a riot. Is this, oh my God, is he gonna cast Scabrunator? Or is he he's gonna discard Scabrunator probably. Hashtag things I didn't think I'd say on coverage. Discarding Scabrunator. As an additional cost to cast that card, you exile 3 creature cards from your graveyard. You can cast it from the bin too. So it was a card that was like kind of supposed to go in Dredge-ish, but it's just this really weird, wonky blue card that was printed in Innistrad.
Yeah, there's one copy here, of course, between Curse Catcher, Judge's Familiar, and Martyr of Frost. Greg has a lot of ways to just make this happen.
And the card does a nice job of closing the game out too, so. Here's 3 mana from Chris. That is a Phyrexian Metamorph. Will Hatch counter this? Because that is looking to likely copy the old Lodestone Golem.
And the second copy of this really puts a squeeze on Greg. I would imagine he's going to fight over this somehow.
I think you probably have to at this point. I think like letting the first one go is probably okay. I think I'm a little bit more scared of the second one though. So Martyr Frost, it's been a good run.
We've had some memories. We've had some laughs, but...
And Hatch is going to change the way that he activates this. Wants to leave Wasteland open in case he wants to cast it. Time to show some blue cards off, Greg. Probably these Sky Hussars we've been using. Yeah,
that's a good choice.
Yeah.
He knows about those, so...
See? No info for you, my friend. If Chris pays a cool 3 more mana, it shows the Vagus Elemental, then he can let this... It will be able to resolve if he paid 3 more, but he does not, so...
Yeah, he doesn't mind showing off the Magus Elemental just to be safe in case there's some weird Simian Spirit Guide action going on in Chris's hand. Greg just erring on the side of caution there.
And for 5 we go. Hatch going to go down to 14. Now, it's time to forecast yet again with Sky Hussar. Hatch going to draw a card. Another copy of Flusterstorm. Considering his options here.
Yeah, for example, he could cast Spellstar Sprite inside of the upkeep and then forecast again.
You see it all. Every angle. Wow.
I don't know if I'm seeing every angle because there's a lot going on here, but I'm seeing some of it.
That is an angle I did not see. Now, here's an angle Greg hopefully does not miss, which is if you attach the Vagus Elemental, it could be a surprise blocker and Lodestone Golem being untapped via Voltaic Key.
Yeah, I think Craig is right now still on his... He's just trying to generate a bunch of cards right now.
Okay. Well, that's what he's going to do. So he plays Spellstutter Sprite, does this, draws an island. Sky Stars go back to the grip. He draws a card for the turn. He's going to play a land. He will be able to cast Aether Vial because it's an artifact. Yeah, you see, Hatch, I knew it. I knew you would say that. So Vial will slide in underneath this. And he's going to pass the turn back.
Yeah.
You see these two having a laugh. So untap the Lodestone Golem with the Voltaic Key, take a draw. Chris draws a copy of Ancient Tomb. Now you've seen he's had a Cavern of Souls in his hand for a very, very long time. And he's chosen not to play it, probably with the intentions of going from 4 to 6 mana if he draws a double land to cast some sort of big spell.
Yeah, the major thing right now is, again, Chris, with that copy of City Traders in play, he's had no reason to play an additional land, and he wants to keep a City of Traders, so he's correctly been patient.
In for 5 comes the Golem. Greg bluffing a Vial for 0. Hey, who knows what the heck can come out of this deck? You think you know, but you have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like Chris may be considering, I think the card that he has in his hand right now, you see his hand, all the cards are brown, so it's hard to make some of them out actually. There's a Metal Worker over there we saw earlier. He's going to play the Ancient Tomb. He's going to take 2, go down to 14. I believe this is going to be a Steel Hellkite.
Well, it's either Steel Hellkite or Worm Coil.
Yeah, those are 6 mana spells, and it is going to be the Hellkite. So to the skies we go.
Hellkite pretty exciting against Greg's board of all one casting cost permanents.
Yeah, not so bad. Not so bad. If it can connect, which I don't know if it's going to be able to do.
Yeah, the issue here, of course, is that Greg's drawing so many cards, he might just be able to generate a lot of chump blockers.
Also, Greg was probably looking for a way to go off now with the Vagus Elemental.
That's the other thing. What happens if Greg just attacks with Niv Magus Elemental in this Hellkite? What do you do if you're Chris?
Yeah. The big thing here for Hatch is he's a little bottlenecked on mana, even though he's working himself out of it. But, you know, the goal here is to cast some sort of spell and be able to Flusterstorm it, and then, you know, Flusterstorm Storm, and then eat all the copies. That's the trick. See if he can put the trick together. Draw a card. There's a Force of Will. Force of Will actually allow him to do what he wants to do.
Gives him a lot of freedom now.
Yeah. Will Hatch go at it again?
Again, he can initiate the action by doing something like, I'll play Judge's Familiar, I'll Force of Will it, I'll Flusterstorm the Force of Will, and then I'll eat the copies of everything.
Yeah, and eat the Flusterstorm copies, eat the Force of Will, just do all this ridiculous stuff. Now, we're still in the upkeep. Violet's ticked up to 1, and he's just going to take a draw.
So by not forecasting a second time, I believe that means he wants the Spellstar Sprite back to block and the Niv Magus Elemental to attack this turn.
Yes. That's what it feels like, at least.
But we shall see.
Yeah, we have no idea what's working in that head. We think we'd like to know. So Hatch, gonna tap 1 mana. Whatever spell he plays is gonna have to cost 2 unless it's an Aether Vial because of Lodestone Golem. So this may mess up his planning a little bit with how much he can do in a turn.
Yeah, there's so many permutations with these lines. The Flusterstorms really complicate things.
Oh, this is easy. This is this is just ABC magic. Play your creature, attack with it. See, so there's 2 Flusterstorms, there's 2 copies of Sky Hussar. There's a Curse Catcher, there's a Force of Will. He's probably gonna have to counter his own spell to turn on his Flusterstorm to let him go crazy. Just a day in the park. He's gonna vial in something here. It's gonna be a Judge's Familiar, I believe. And it is. Let's see what the follow-up's gonna be.
Greg taking a deep sigh there after putting that Judge's Familiar.
Yeah.
Trying to noodle this all through. And you can see why Daze is great for initiating these lines of play with Flusterstorm here, as it's a freebie.
I honestly feel like that's what he's kind of looking for. Greg considering casting Niv Magus Elemental or a Curse Catcher. He's going to play a Curse Catcher rather slowly. Okay.
It wouldn't surprise me if he had the intent of just putting a bunch of creatures in front of Lodestone Golem.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Hatch going to pass the turn back. Not going to fire off Wasteland still. I guess because Force of Will is going to cost 1 and Flusterstorm is going to cost 2, he can't afford to fire off Force of Will.
Yeah.
That makes sense, actually. All right, Chris, it's on you. Chris is probably thinking what everybody else at home is thinking, which is, what in the heck is going on here?
What on earth is going on here?
I haven't seen anything like this.
How is this happening?
Yeah. Let me hit with that Overseer one time.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, the Hellkite and see what happens.
And what's really intimidating if you're Chris here is that Greg has passed every single turn with at least 5 cards in his hand. It's not even like he's close to out of resources.
Yeah.
And you've already seen Snapback, so Lord only knows what Greg could potentially have access to.
Spellstutter Sprite, under the bus. There's the City of Traders. Let's see what the follow-up's going to be. That's 6 mana. I have a feeling we're going to see a bit of a show here in a moment. That's a Wormcoil Engine. No, 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 no. I cannot imagine this is going to resolve, but we'll see. So he's going to pay the 1 mana. This is going to be a Force of Will. See, Sky Hussar's blue, see?
Yep.
So you can remove, see, you can remove the Force
It's
of Will,
another
see?
dimension.
Yeah. It's just good deck building. Looks like Hatch is going to remove Niv Magus Elemento. And you guys can't hear him, obviously, because we don't have microphones on the players on there. The words he's using right now is hold priority, most likely.
Yeah.
With the, I wouldn't be surprised with the intention of doing a little bit of Flusterstorming here. So what he's going to do, he's going to Flusterstorm his own Force of Will. Storm count is now 3.
Yep.
Because of Fluster, so there are 3 copies of Flusterstorm on the stack. 1 for Flusterstorm itself, 1 for Force of Will, 1 for Wormcoil Engine.
Correct.
Okay.
And he can use Niv Magus Elemental to eat all of these copies.
Mm-hmm.
So then his Niv Magus Elemental gets large, and the Force of Will still resolves.
Yeah. Niv Magus Elemental, one of these sweeter Magic cards.
It is really fun and pretty open-ended, the stuff you can do with it.
Yes.
And it with Flusterstorm is just an incredible synergy.
Yeah. It's this energy that Hatch has been trying to make work for some time now. Whenever we come to the West Coast, he is just always doing this. Last time he was doing it with like Berserk and some other ridiculous things, and this time he's doing it with this.
I've seen Death Shadow builds of this deck.
Yep. So he eats the 3 copies of the Flusterstorm, and now, hey, Forcible, you're good to go. You can counter that thing now.
And you can tell Chris is just having kind of a difficult time believing all of this is happening.
I'm right there with him. So now Greg explains exactly how it all works. It all makes sense. Niv Magus Elemental at the end of this turns into a 7-power creature. It's a 1/2, obviously, with 6+1/+1 counters on it. Because really, why not? And now we're going to go back to Sky Hussar.
Right. Well, we need more gas.
We definitely need some gas. So step 1, forecast. Oh, Judge is familiar. You want to get in here, huh? Got to be careful with how many flyers leaves back. Time to draw.
Yeah, because if that steel Hellkite hits, it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a catastrophe for Greg.
The game is over. Hatch will draw a card. One of the cards he drew here was a Disrupting Shoal. I think he actually drew 2 copies of Disrupting Shoal. Disrupting
Shoal is Force of Will's number, 5 through 8. It's also not unreasonable for him to hard cast it in certain spots.
I'm going to have to do a story count with Disrupting Shoal. How many times do you remove Sky Hussar to counter Force of Will?
Yeah.
Perhaps ad nauseum.
Right.
Yeah. Batter Skull.
And now this is the difficult thing about playing against a deck like Greg's. He's sending in this Nimbagus Elemental. It's obviously a good attack. It's a 7/8. Chris doesn't even know if he's dead if he lets this through.
Yeah.
I mean, Greg could have some sequence of nonsense to just kill Chris if he takes this hit. So
yeah. We just saw a sequence of nonsense to make this thing into a real creature.
But can he win by chump blocking?
Yeah.
It's very challenging to play against decks when your opponents. I'm not talking about they're playing a card that you haven't seen before. I'm talking about they're playing 20 cards you haven't seen before.
Yes. All right, so in front of the Nimbagus Elemental goes Lodestone Golem. Greg has worked his way through that. I just need to make sure again that Steel Overseer doesn't hit. Looks like he might fire off a Wasteland here, huh?
Yeah, I like it. Chris has a lot of expensive spells. Greg certainly doesn't need the Wasteland at this point. He has more than enough mana, and Lodestone Golem's no longer in play.
Yeah, no longer bottlenecked on mana because the Golem is gone. So he's going to take down City of Traders with the thought of, if you want a bunch of mana, you're going to have to pay 2 life for it. Chris is going to untap. He'll take a draw. A copy of Ratchet Bomb, which is really good against Greg's deck.
Chris has oddly come prepared for this matchup. Steel Hellkite and Ratchet Bomb are probably pretty high on the list of cards Greg would not like to play against.
Well, Chalice of the Void is literally number 1.
Right.
And Chris hasn't drawn that yet. Now, Greg knows what he's playing against, which is Mud, so heaven forbid one of those shows up.
There is a lot of hilarious dimensions to the match that is being played right now.
Overseer. Maybe wanting to come on in. The water is warm, after all.
Yeah. But Chris's life total, is under some duress here, and Greg has, between the Nimbagus Elemental and all of his just leftover goofballs, very close to a lethal attack next turn.
Especially with Ancient Tomb dealing damage as well.
Yep, and a Vial on 1. As far as Chris knows, there could be another threat coming down.
For the record, there is no way this is resolving.
This is worthy of a counterspell.
Yeah. Greg has a Disrupting Shoal that he can actually hardcast for 2.
He could not do this with Force of Will.
Yeah.
He could not Wasteland and hard cast Force of Will here.
So true.
That's just good deck building.
Yep. That'll take care of that.
I think Disrupting Shoal is a criminally underrated card.
I'm inclined to agree with you, actually.
Probably would make my top, 15 or 20 list of most underplayed cards in Magic's history.
Just like another free counterspell, but this one doesn't get played that much. It's obviously a little more sensitive to things, but...
Yeah, of course, but it's also not unreasonable to hardcast in a lot of spots, too. Especially when we were playing standard formats where, Moloku, Kaiga, and Azami were all cards, and if you ever resolved any of them and didn't die, you won the game.
Yeah.
I would be in the market for a situational Force of Will quite often.
Chris is going to take 2. He's going to go down to 10 via Ancient Tomb. I think we're going to see the Metal Worker. There that is. Steel Overseer. Are you back on defense, Steel Overseer? Yeah, I think this is a pass. That's a pass. How do you feel, Patrick? You want to go Sky Hussaring?
At least once.
All right. Give me a card. Island added to the grip. Probably can't afford to Hussar again. What I want to see is I want to see that Vial tick up to 5.
Oh, we're going to that plan B?
Oh, yeah, that's what I want. Vial has ticked up to 2, I believe, as Hatch will draw another card. There's an island. I do like the fact that he's Wasteland proof. Like, I wish there was a white mana in here, I guess.
I don't think I can't imagine the game getting to the point where Sky Hussar gets cast and it makes a difference.
That's just closed-minded.
I could be wrong. Granted, I could be wrong.
Well, there goes that.
So Chris must have big plans for this Metal Worker.
Well, he's got, the only card he's has is Blightsteel Colossus. So you look at the mana that he has, which is, he's got 2, 3, 4, 5 mana in play. He's got 2 artifacts that he can show, so that's 9. And then if you play the Citadel, that'd be 10. So he's a little short here, I think.
All right, so 4 mana, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Can he cast that thing this turn? I don't think he can, right?
Well, what if he Petrified Fields back a 2-mana land? Does that get him anywhere?
He shows 4.
No, that's still net 1 mana. Oh, yeah, he can key.
Missed the onboard key.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right. So,
Oh, boy.
Colossus is comfortably out of Disrupting Shoal range. Greg, now this is a spot where you would want Force of Will, because Disrupting Shoal is not very good.
You're right.
there.
You're right about that. See, that's one of the reasons why Disrupting Shoal is a better card. Or excuse me, Force Will is a better card than Disrupting Shoal, yes. Vax Elemental, you want to come play with the big man?
I think Greg's got to find some way to just finish this out in the air,
Yeah.
which he can kind of do.
Yeah, I mean, we can see an attack here with just like a bunch of idiots and then leave Niv-Max Elemental back on defense to soak up some of the infect damage. He's going to have to get a little bit more creative, but this whole match has been creative, so.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the math.
I mean, again, he can try to set up some sort of Flusterstorm play.
Well, Flusterstorm play doesn't really do anything because growing Niv-Max Elemental doesn't do anything because Blightsteel's indestructible.
Well, it might give him a second opportunity to chump block.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. That's unlikely, but.
Yeah, sure. Well, Hatch, you've had a lot of fun goofing around. Playtime's over.
Right. We've had some laughs, but now it's time. Someone's got to go.
All right, so what in goodness name is happening here? So here's a Spell Stutter sprite. It's gonna Disrupting Shoal this, removing Sky Hussar. You got Flusterstorm.
Okay.
Yep. Because what you can do is you can Disrupting Shoal with a card that costs more. It just won't counter the spell.
Yeah, it's like Pyroblast, Hydroblast wording of counter if.
Yeah.
Not target only.
So not a bunch of counters are going to go into Max Elemental. Because why not? And now we'll untap.
So now we're in second chump blocker territory, too.
So that's a 6, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That's a 17 power Niv-Max Elemental. He's going to go Sky Hussaring too. All right, take a card. Not quite sure what Hatch drew here. Might be another Sky Hussar. He's going to take this up to 3. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're going to get the Hussar out there. Yeah, he drew another Sky Hussar. So he's going to play an island. We're going in the air.
You can also get his Scab Ruinator back, right? And increase his clock
If he
substantially.
remembers, because I forgot. Are there 3 creatures down there?
I'd have to imagine.
There's a Martyr of Frost.
A Spellstutter Sprite?
Right, I'm not sure there's a 3rd one down there, actually.
Oh, okay.
Grim Mile to draw here for Chris. So here's the issue.
Well, Chris just gets killed on the crack.
Well, that's not necessarily true. I thought that too. So if he swings in with Blightsteel because the key,
Yeah, he can key it.
Now obviously he's going to swing in with Blightsteel because he has to, I think. And now Niv Magnus is going to get in the way. Yeah. 11 counters gone.
Yeah. Yep. And Chris is really enjoying this too.
If you don't love this, you don't love Magic.
I don't know what to tell you. If every matchup legacy was some variation of this, it would be perfect.
Greg, with Vial in the stack, he'll go Hussaring again. Take a draw. It's a Force of Will. You're a little late, but you're not so bad. Taking this up to 4. Take a draw. Island. Play an island. Probably just Air Show again. Yep. And for 3, put you down to 2. Blightsteel can't get the job done through this. I'm not sure what Chris can draw. It's a Cydia Trader, so it's not going to get the job done. Along with the Monolith and Darksteel Citadel, he can make a bunch of mana. He can attack for 11 poison. Patrick, what was less likely today? This is kind of
The answer is this.
This is kind of a loaded question. A Martyr of Frost in play at any point, or a Blightsteel Colossus attacking twice and having it be no good.
Just blunted by a 1-mana creature?
Yeah, just absolutely no good.
I would say the second thing is less likely.
We're going to have to get our infect counter up on the screen here because Blightsteel Colossus dealt some infect damage. There it is. Hatch is going to go Sky Hussaring again.
Getting the vial up to 5,
Yep.
which I joked would never happen, and he's just drawn Chain of Vapor too, which is a great insurance policy.
That's a healthy one of in his deck, probably. Yeah.
Greg's getting a little fancy here. Maybe he should just.
Yeah. So he's getting a little fancy. He's drawing cards, and then he's gonna violence guy who's untap his whole team and then attack. A little fancier it needs to be, given that there's about 20 minutes left on the clock and he needs to get the game over with. But he's also having the time of his life. Skywstar's gonna come into play. Trigger, untap all the creatures, attack with the 3 flyers.
And that is lethal.
Yep. That's exactly what that is. Anyone who says we don't have the best job in the world is lying.
Yeah,
they are lying.
I believe Chris just said, "What happened?"
Yeah.
As we're gonna go to the sideboard here, there's just of course. What's more awesomeness here? 2 copies of Divert. 2 copies of Umas, I should say, 2 copies of Pity Needle, 2 more copies of Scabruinator, 2 Back to Basics, and Ivory Tower, which I assume is for some sort of beatdown matchup, maybe Burn.
I'll actually tell you how the Ivory Tower came to be. When we were getting out of the car yesterday after dinner, he found one in the trunk of the car underneath a tire, and he said, "That's the answer." I don't know what the question was.
Yeah, it's funny to look at this because if you look at Greg's deck, it's like there are a lot of cards that I don't think he can beat, and some of them are fairly innocuous. Could he beat White Knight? You know, could he beat a 2/2 first striker?
Seems tough.
It's seriously like some creatures like that. Imagine someone resolves Bramaz against him. Bramaz is better than all of his creatures in play at once.
Yes.
So there's definitely some limitations here, but you can see that for a deck that's trying to do the unfair legacy stuff, there's just so many annoying cards to try to slog through.
Greg is hoping he does not play against the card Tarmogoyf.
Yep.
Not sure if you've ever heard of that one.
Yeah.
Or True Name Nemesis.
Right. Yeah.
Does not want to play against that one either.
3 copies of Smirch and a Spellstar Sprite. Yeah, we had the conversation as we were going back to the hotel room, and you guys dropped me off where Greg was talking about all these different cards he's planning on playing and all these good matchups and all this stuff. And he's like, when you have me on camera tomorrow, I'm probably just going to be getting my head kicked in by 2 Tarmogoyfs or whatever. But there's a lot of cool stuff going on in theory.
On Chris's side, he's got 3 copies of Tormod Script, a Defense Grid, a Thorn of Amethyst, a Ratchet Bomb, a Phyrexian Revoker, 2 Spellskites, a Witchbane Orb, a Nevinyr's Disc.
Whoa, dude, Nevdisc is really good against Greg's deck. Is really good.
A Duplicant, a Steel Hellkite, a Spine of Isha, and an All-Is Dust Buster. Well, I love the Ratchet Bomb. Revoker good here.
Phyrexian Revoker?
Yeah, he's got Vial.
I mean, yeah, there's Vial, there's Martyr of Frost, there's some cards.
Let's see here. Spellskite's like whatever. Defense Grid's whatever. Nevdisc is great. Duplicant is expensive and probably okay. Still, Hellkite's obviously great, but probably never going to connect.
I mean, there's all this kind of stuff is you have your mana and then you have your big stuff.
Yeah.
And what's your best big stuff? That's all the question is here. So to me, for example, I believe that Steel Hellkite's probably better than Blightsteel Colossus because they both win. You read the game if you hit once, and one of them flies, and one of them is less mana. So that's like a pretty easy swap, for example. I think you're going to see a variety of that kind of thing going on.
And as we have mentioned a few times today, the one thing that Greg said cannot beat under any circumstances, a resolved copy of Chalice of the Void. It's not happening.
Yeah, he basically needs to be on the play and have Aether Vial, and then he can play a game. But if Chris goes turn 1, you know, Ancient Tomb or City Traders into Chalice for 1, and Greg does not have a Force of Will or Disruptive Shoal on the spot, it's nearly impossible for him to win.
It is lights out Guerrilla Radio.
We're talking about having to hardcast Spellstar Sprite into Ninja of the Deep Hours, into whatever. So there's a lot to ask for.
We'll see what happens in game number 2 here between Hatch and Kapica. Mono Blue Martyr versus Mud. You know what? We're probably going to run into some nonsense with Delvers eventually anyway, so let's have a little fun to start the day, shall we?
It's good to take a break. I'm sure as we approach the later rounds here, we're going to get more than our fair share of opportunities to be brainstorming and pondering and whatnot.
Oh man, a True Name Nemesis resolved. I wonder who's going to win.
You know, we have plenty of opportunities for that kind of stuff as the day progresses, but for now, let's embrace Legacy in its ideal form.
Yes.
This nonsense occurring every round.
I could not agree with you anymore. We're not in Seattle, so there won't be any Allurn. Did you get to watch Allurn last week?
We did. It was really impressive, actually. I never contemplated Charlotte's Agent or Baleful Strix in that deck because Allurn wasn't really on my radar, but those give the deck a really impressive kind of natural grindy game it can play.
Baleful Strix is nice. You
Yeah.
don't have to play Coiling Oracle is fine for multiple reasons, but Baleful Strix I think is just a better Coiling Oracle.
I think one Oracle is still fine.
Sure. I know Alex Ledbetter was playing the deck, because here's a Ratchet Bomb. That's kind of like a Chalice.
It's pretty bad for Greg.
Might need to counter that. He does have 8 free counter spells in his deck, and he has a Force Will and a blue card, so Force Will removing Nimvex Elemental. Greg's Invitational card.
Yeah, the one casting cost permanent hate is really what.
Oh, come on, he has another one?
Looks like he has a pretty land-heavy hand here.
Yeah.
2 more islands, a Force of Will, and a Flusterstorm.
What's this? Phyrexian Revoker. So Revoker can name, that can name Niv Magus.
Yes.
That's actually pretty good. We're thinking of cards that it can name. I forgot that Niv Magus is actually one of them, because that's an activated ability.
Yeah, it doesn't tap, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, it seems free. Ooh. Hello, ladies. That's a wasteland. Yeah, Revoker does name Niv Magus Elemental. So here's a question, food for thought. Do you waste on the City of Traders, or do you wait for the next land?
With a Force of Will in hand, I wait for the next land.
Okay. Lightning Greaves. That Revoker is safe.
Yeah, and now Chris has a number of really threatening. All of his creatures get significantly more threatening.
Yeah. Metalworker gets terrifying now.
Yeah.
And Chris, not going to attack, pass the turn back. I think Greg would just offer up a trade.
I'm pretty sure if Greg knew that that was the top card of Chris's deck, that he would have wastelanded last turn.
Sure. Hatch passes back. Chris draws a card. It's a Trinisphere. What's this? Oh, he's going to play a land? A Grim Monolith. Okay. This is tough, actually. This actually might be worth countering. You see, Chris actually has more lands in his hand.
With Chris stalled on lands, you have to imagine that he has a bunch of haymakers that are pretty replaceable.
Yeah.
So letting him have a monolith is pretty risky.
The Force Will removing Flusterstorm is going to happen here. I think now I would want a Wasteland. I really do. Disrupting Shoulder Draw. I'm not saying it's right. I just have like this inclination I would want to Wasteland that.
Yeah, I know you mean.
Nev Disc.
Ugh. Some of these cards that Chris has access to are just so brutal for Greg.
Like this one?
Well, actually, fortunately, Greg's kind of flooded out here and has no spells. So
That's true.
Trinisphere doesn't mean too much the way the board's currently set up.
I suppose Trinisphere is good against Chris, too,
Yeah.
given the board state.
And it's about to get better here with Greg able to wasteland Chris's remaining mana source.
Yeah, Greg just really unlucky flooding with his 13 land deck.
Yep.
I think he's going to fire off a Wasteland now. Yeah. Now, Trinisphere, a vintage all-star, this is just a really weird card. So basically everything costs 3. If you have any questions, it costs 3. Force of Will for free costs 3. You know, all of that stuff. Everything just, it costs 3. And then that all works as long as Trinisphere is untapped, which is a little bit weird, but it's very rare that the card actually gets tapped, so.
Probably a throwback to Winter Orb type designs that were like that.
Ninja the Deep Powers is here. Little ninjutsu. Hatch will draw a card. He'll play an island. He can't cast a spell. He doesn't have 3 mana, and he will pass the turn back. Chris will draw. It's a Darksteel Citadel, but he won't be able to cast a spell because of Trinisphere.
Yeah, his hand is Nev Disc, Metalworker, and some big boys. A Forge Master and a Colossus.
One more land, though. Chris is actually in pretty good shape.
Well, he gets to play Metalworker, Greaves on the Metalworker, and then go nuts, potentially.
Yeah. Hatch draws a card. It's a Judge's Familiar. Kind of strange, actually, where Hatches, like, things that tax spells, Judge's Familiar, Curse Catcher, stuff like that, doesn't do anything against these decks.
Yeah, he's all artifact creatures, so
Yeah.
Greg's disruption doesn't really work. The Force of Wills and the Shoals, to a lesser degree, are still functional, but
Yeah.
the creatures that he's leaning on to beat the unfair stuff aren't really functional against Chris.
Will Greg get in with the Ninja? Looks like we're going to start here with Niv Magus Elemental and just pass the turn back. So does not want to trade the Ninja with a Phyrexian Revoker. Chris draws Metalworker. It's an artifact, so if he's ever able to find land, we're going to go Sky Husaring.
Here we go.
We are doing it. Back to
Oh my
God.
Oh my goodness.
Back to basics to draw from Greg.
I mean, Greg definitely wants to trap Chris into casting something, tapping his lands, and then locking him with back to basics.
So I'm going to Sky Husar again. Now draw. So he's just drawing 2 cards a turn now. And because his counterspells cost 3 mana, he doesn't want to make a move. Now here, the trap has been set. 3 mana. This is a Metalworker. This is oh my god, he has the mana to cast Disrupting Shoal for 3. Oh boy. Oh boy.
All right, that's step 1, and I know what step 2 is about to be.
We're going back and back.
We're going.
Cali.
It's going to be back to basics time here.
Sky Hussar, forecast, hatch, draws, back to basics. Oh me, oh my. It's going to take 3 more lands for you, Chris. Well, hey, maybe 2 more. There's City of Traders.
That's a really good start for Chris. Again, if he can actually get this Metalworker into play, he can do whatever he wants, mana-wise.
Hussar, draw a card, come back to the grip, take a draw.
This is pretty impressive because in theory, Chris has a lot of cards that are pretty rough for Gray to be playing against.
Martyr Frost in the house.
Good deal, even for 3 mana.
Yep. 2 mana to activate. Hatch will discard a Sky Hussar. Don't need that one anymore. Pass the turn back. Yeah, those lands are still tapped.
Yeah. And the Martyr here is so rough for Chris because he can't really get it off the table, and he can only use his lands very sparingly because of back to basics. And it means that he can't get Metalworker into play on this board either. So it looks innocuous, but that's a really big advantage for Greg.
It's time to go Hussaring again. Card coming. Hatch, oddly enough, looking for like just a 6 mana source, which he just found with an island. So then he can do multiple things in 1 turn.
Yeah, now against Transfer, he can cast 2 spells in 1 turn.
Ninja coming on in. Any trades to be had?
And if you're Chris, you got to feel, as bad as it is for these ninjas to hit, if I lose this Revoker and Niv Magus Elemental, like the floodgates can open up.
He could just die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Immediately. Hatch looking to cast a spell here, just not sure which one.
Greg Hatch is a national treasure. This is great.
This has been worth every minute.
Yes.
Hatch is going to discard a couple copies. See, and now what he's setting up, Patrick.
Uh-huh.
Now he's setting up the Ruinator.
Yeah, that's going to lock this one up.
Yeah. Scab Ruinator is aching to do.
Yeah.
Locking games up.
Yep. Greg now with a flush graveyard from having drawn so many extra cards.
2. Here is a Wasteland. 3. Can't imagine this is resolving, especially with that Martyr out there on the table.
Yeah, it just depends on if Greg wants to use the Martyr here or use his Shoal.
Yeah, he's got Disrupting Shoal. So here's Martyr. Gonna sacrifice this. Show a couple blue cards. Yeah, I'd show him the Ruinator.
Yeah, let him know it's coming.
Yeah. Show you a Sky Hussar, Ruinator, and Judge's Familiar. So, Metalworker down.
Again, Greg just erring on the side of caution here.
As he should.
Over-revealing a little bit just to make sure that something really weird doesn't happen because he can't allow the Metalworker to get into play.
There's a Scab Ruinator.
Boom.
Got to remove 3 creatures from the graveyard to put it into play. Of course, it does cost 3 mana. Now Hatch will come in for 3 points of damage. 5/6 flyer. That's how he chooses to close the game out. Now there is another legacy card that costs blue 1 that does have power and toughness, but he's deciding to go against Trinate Nemesis in favor of the Ruinator. And I like it that way.
Well, I mean, he needs a higher impact threat, right? And there's also, he's already kind of exposed to some splash damage. A card like Gregory Charm is already very good against him, So having just a big hitter could be better.
So Hatch tried to cast a Needle, thinking the Trinisphere is all things instead of just thinking it's not like Lowstone Golem. He thought that if it's an artifact, it would cost 1 mana, but no. You have to pay 3. Chris draws his card, passes the turn back under the back-to-basics Scab Ruinator lock.
Very common, as good now as it always is.
Yeah, something you see just every day when you watch SCG Live. Hatch going to come into the red zone here with the Ninja, the Deep Hours, Niv Magus Elemental, and the Scab Ruinator. Well, I don't know what you're laughing about.
Oh, just the announcement.
Yeah.
And Hatch enters the red zone with a Ninja, the Deep Hours, a Niv Magus Elemental, and a Scab Ruinator.
Yeah.
That's a funny thing to say.
Yeah. Does the opponent have any blocks? Normally it's the mud deck that is the ridiculous deck.
Yeah.
Not
and,
today.
and locking out the opponent in 7 different ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not today, my friends. And that's going to jump in front of the Ninja. If Mag's Elemental has finally been released from its cage, it can start to go crazy starting next turn. Damage resolves, Ninja will trade, 6 points of damage will come across, Kiss will go down to 7. See what kind of follow-up Hatch has, if any.
I mean, he could hard cast into the deep hours and leave up Force of Will mana, for example.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hatch just going to discard.
Just erring on the side of caution. Greg can untap and kill him very easily if Chris does nothing next turn.
Yeah.
So no reason to spend any mana.
And that is going to do it. Greg Hatch with Mono Blue Martyr defeats Chris Kapica and his mud deck 2-0. Easily one of the most fun matches I have ever covered here on SCG Live.
Greg, never stop what you're doing.
No.
Do this forever.
You leave, well, to be fair, you know, he just loves the Mono Blue deck.
He does.
In any fashion.
Nidmagus Elemental Flusterstorm is his language.
Yes.
So if there's any way to rationalize it, he's going to play it, and it's often what he's brewing. And looked pretty impressive there. You know, Chris has a ton of horrible cards for Greg to play against. We're talking, he has main deck Steel Hellkite, main deck Chalice of the Void, and main deck Ratchet Bomb. All cards Greg's going to struggle to beat most games, but with all the card advantage and random tricks and, you know, cards that Chris wasn't necessarily anticipating in various spots, Greg was able to take it down.
And here's the thing.